Welcome into another episode of the Fat Guy Podcast. I'm the Fat Guy. Most people just call me Brett. So glad you are listening to today's episode, whether this is your first time listening or whether you've done like a gentleman that just commented on my Facebook page last night. He went and binge listened to every podcast since I went keto, which is crazy because I've done a lot of podcasts since I went keto. So, look, that's the beautiful thing about podcasting is the content is always there. And if you're not familiar with podcasting, maybe you just click this link on Facebook or Twitter or something and you don't really understand podcasting. It's really the simplest thing you can do is go download the Spreaker app. No matter what kind of phone you got, you can get the Spreaker app, Spreaker. That's the company that hosts my podcast. Download it. Once you download it, search for Fat Guy Podcast. Hit that heart button, follow, subscribe. You'll get updated about new episodes, and you can easily scroll back and listen to all the old episodes. You should also go ahead and follow us on all the social media. That'd be really awesome. Share a little bit different stuff across the different forms of media because they're kind of, social media is designed to do different things. So what's on Facebook's a little different than what's on Instagram. That's a little bit different than what's on Snapchat or whatever. Our username on all those is Fat Guy Podcast, so we're pretty easy to find. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. I don't have any formal medical training. I'm just a guy that's been fat since I was about 4 or 5 years old. Always knew that there was a reason. Like I never bought into the fact that I didn't have willpower or that I was a lazy slob because I know that I didn't apply laziness to the rest of my life. I know that I didn't apply slobbiness to the rest of my life. I'm a pretty determined person, a person who's pretty hell-bent on doing the things I set out to do. And pretty much with the exception of maybe one or two things in my life, losing weight being one of them, I'd always done that. And even got into arguments with friends of mine throughout my life about, you just need to eat less and move more, blah, 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 and I tried all those things and it just, those things would work for a little while and then you just have a meltdown. Things would just go off the rails and it didn't matter how many times you tried it or how many different twists you added to it. The end result was always the same. The wheels would just come off the train and you'd be in the ditch. And I think probably everybody can identify with that. And you're trying and you have willpower and you're determined to succeed. But you eventually hit a wall that just derails everything. So what I have done is researched diet for really the past 5 years, a little more than 5 years, since my mom was diagnosed with cancer is when I really got serious into it. And I was researching things for her, trying to help her extend her life, and researching things for me to try to be as healthy as I could be because I knew the day was coming that I'd have to take care of her. And when she was diagnosed, I was not in any kind of shape to take care of her. I was in very bad physical condition. I was very overweight. It was very difficult for me to move around. And so, no, I don't have formal medical training, but I can promise you I've probably spent as much time researching nutrition, weight loss, health, and all these type of things is probably anybody I had a lot of time over the past 5.5 years to do it because I left my job full-time. I wanted to be available full-time for my mom. And she did well for several years. And so, it wasn't like she required constant care. That didn't happen up until about the last 9 or 10 months or so of her life. So, I've spent a lot of time. There's literally been days that I've spent 8, 10, 12 hours doing nothing but looking at research and studies and all these kinds of things. And so, and everything I implemented, and I've learned new things as the farther I've gone along. Somebody questioned me about why I never mentioned whole food vegan, which I was for a while, and I lost a reasonable amount of weight as a whole food vegan. And I have talked about it from time to time. I don't deny it. I don't run from it. And I would never say I was wrong because that is, in my opinion, if you do it well, and look, you have to research it to do it well. You have to research where you're going to get your protein from. You have to research where you're going to get your healthy fats from. And you need to keep it whole food. You can't be eating this vegan junk food stuff that they sell, which I find a lot of vegans do. And so it's very difficult, but it can be done and it can be healthy. And I was healthy when I was on it and I lost weight. But it's very difficult. It's very difficult to pull that diet off, especially in the situation I was in where I was always traveling. I was just always traveling. And that's eventually what one of the two components that did me in. And I'm not going to get on all of that. You can go back and listen to my podcast from a year ago or whatever about me explaining why I went from vegan to keto. But look, if you're overweight, you have type 2 diabetes. If you're very overweight, you have type 2 diabetes and these type things. I firmly believe keto is the fastest, easiest way to lose weight. That does not mean that I think a well-planned, well-thought-out vegan diet, whole food vegan diet is wrong. I may at some point in my life go back to being that. I felt pretty good on it. It's just you have to eat a lot. You have to eat all the time. The foods you're eating aren't very calorie dense, so you're constantly eating. And it's very difficult to travel because you can't get a very good, decent variety of vegan foods at most places traveling. So it's a challenge to eat that way. Nevertheless, we're here to talk about fasting day. This is my third day of fasting. So I would say the second half of yesterday and the first half of today were the roughest parts. I'm feeling pretty good now. We're late over into the afternoon. And so it's 3 days of fasting, and I've lost 6 pounds. Now, all that's water, and it's water that I gained from my binge at the casino. I went to the casino. It was my aunt's birthday, and there was some family there, and we pigged out at the buffet, and I ate cheesecake several times and pecan pie several times. I'm not going to lie. I didn't have a breakdown and do it. I knew I was going to do it. I planned to do it. I knew the consequences of doing it. And then the day before I left the casino, I decided to have a margarita day, and I had margaritas all day. And it was so I knew that I would be carrying a lot of water when I got back. I didn't know it'd be 14 pounds, though. I gained 14 pounds in 3 days, and I know at least 13 pounds of that was water. So I've lost 6 of it in 3 days, and I would expect that to continue over the next few days. I don't know that I have a lot more to add than that, other than I just wanted to keep people updated on my progress. And I was going to do a video today, but there's so many podcast listeners that don't watch the videos on my Facebook page. And I think most of the people that watch my videos on Facebook probably click over and listen to the podcast. So the podcast, I think, hits more people. So I decided to just do a podcast today. So people are asking me, what are you doing with your fast? Like, are you consuming anything? So I'm doing an electrolyte drink every day, and it's basically what I call my keto lemonade drink that I basically drink every day anyway. And the thing is, I'm just doing it twice now, so I'm making sure I get all of my sodium and I'm getting all of my potassium. So it's a quart of water. Take a quart of water. I mix about 5 grams of sea salt in there and 5 grams of potassium in there. Now, you can get bulk potassium. I buy mine from Amazon. You want to get potassium chloride or potassium citrate is what I have. I don't think potassium citrate's the best, but I've done a lot of reading on it, and it seems like it does about the same as potassium chloride. I think I will get potassium chloride next time I order. But nevertheless, you can get it in a big pack, and so it's just like having a big pack of salt. And I put 5 grams of that. So I got 5 grams of pink Himalayan sea salt, and I got 5 grams of potassium citrate. Then I add in about 2 tablespoons, about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of organic apple cider vinegar with the mother. And then I add in about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And mix that around really good and get it all stirred up. And then sometimes I'll sweeten it, sometimes I won't. But if you have stevia drops, 4, 5, 6 drops of stevia in there to add a little sweetness to it. So you're getting a little bit of flavor, but you're getting that apple cider vinegar, which really helps with knocking out that blood sugar issue. And it also is great for the digestion. There's tons of things that vinegar is good for. So enjoy that. And then the sodium and the potassium really keeps the electrolytes up, which keeps me feeling good. That's why I don't have a lot of bad time during the fasting. And so on a normal keto day, I'll just do one of those drinks. On fasting days, I'll do that twice. So I wind up getting about 10 grams of 8 to 10 grams of sodium and, 8 to 10 grams of potassium as well. So it's actually less than that. You put the potassium in there, so it sounds like a lot of potassium, and it sounds like a lot of sodium. It's not 8 to 10 grams of sodium. It's 8 to 10 grams of pink Himalayan sea salt. Sodium is about half that. So if you're doing 10 grams of sea salt, you're really getting about somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 grams of sodium. Same thing with the potassium. If you're getting 10 grams of potassium, you're really getting about 4 grams or 10 grams of potassium citrate or potassium chloride or whatever. You're really getting about half that or slightly less than half that in actual potassium, which is about where you want to be. You want to be about 4,000 milligrams or 4 grams, 4 to 4,500 milligrams, which is 4 to 4.5 grams of potassium. And you want about 5-6 grams, something like that, of sodium a day. And I know that sounds like a lot. Again, is it medical advice? You should consult with a doctor. This is just based on my research of salt. I actually just listened to a great podcast on salt yesterday. Not podcast, it's an audio book, but it's about salt. And we just don't do enough salt. Now, there's a lot of people that have health issues that can't do salt. But for the most people, sodium, man, your heart doesn't fire without sodium. The synapses between your brain, it doesn't fire without sodium. You got to have it. It's every cell in your body is powered through electrolytes, and so you really need it. And of course, there's electrolytes past the potassium and the sodium. I find that magnesium I do pretty well without having to supplement, but magnesium is one you might want to consider supplementing, and then beyond that, maybe even calcium. Nevertheless, these electrolytes, they do a ton of things, but one thing is they make you are an electrical machine, and they keep that working. And so it's just like when you first go keto and you need to do the salt to keep from having keto flu. Well, it's the same thing when you're fasting. You'll get very weak if you don't keep your electrolytes up, and I find that I do way better when I have this electrolyte drink. So that's a real quick update for you. I don't know if I'll do an update every single day because I don't know what I could add every day. But every 2 to 3 days, I think I'll do a fasting update. And I may throw some other content in between days, but we'll see how far I go. I don't know how far I'll go. I have goals, but it may only wind up being 4 or 5 days. I could end it tomorrow. I don't know. Or I could go 21 days. We'll just kind of see what happens. Nevertheless, the extended fast continues. I really am doing it for 2 reasons, and I talked about this in a video I did on my Facebook page, but in case you didn't see that, one obviously is weight. I feel like I've been more or less stalled at a weight for a long time now, and I'm ready to kick that in a different gear, and I think fasting will help. And the other one is for medical reasons. I have rosacea really bad. I've tried all the different things to help with the rosacea. I've tried the doxycycline. I've tried the different gels and stuff they want me to put on my face, and none of that really helps. And I've read several places that fasting can do it. So that's another reason I want to do a good extended fast to see if it affects my rosacea at all. So that's my two main reasons for fasting. I appreciate you listening. If you liked the content of this or any of the other podcasts that we've done, please share them. You might change somebody's life. You never know. Download that Spreaker app. If you're not really an expert at podcasting, that's the easiest way. Of course, if you're an old hand at podcasting and you like listening to podcasts, you can find us whatever app you're using. If you're using the app on your iPhone or iPad, just search. We're in Apple Podcasts. We're also in the Google Play Store for you Android users, so we're easy to find there as well. And then follow us on social media. Fat Guy Podcast is the username, so you can add us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat as well. Thanks so much for listening today. We'll talk to you next time.